All right, so enough theory. It's time to actually get into the weeds of building out an outbound campaign. So, for the first step of building out this campaign, I figured I'd show you some of the ways to actually go find leads for the campaign. This will always change, but as of August 2024, I'm going to go over some of the best ways to source leads for your outbound campaign. All right, so the first data source I'm going to go into is Apollo.io, and it is one of the best data sources, in my opinion, on the market. One of three that I would say are standard for pretty much any of my B2B campaigns, unless there are specific industries that Apollo might not have. So it's very simple to create a list in Apollo. Once you create an account, you just go down to search and you can start throwing in any of the filters for people or companies that you'd like. So we can go to companies here. We can throw in account location, type in the United States, and you'll see that it will pop up briefly. There we go. We can go to employees, select employee count. There are even kind of, I'd say, more high intent, interesting intent signals, such as whether they have job postings up, when they were funded, what series they were funded in, revenue, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a really great way to filter down lead lists. And once you have all the leads you want, you can, let's say, select this page. And all you have to do is export the records to CSV. And once you click download, all you have to do is go down to settings. We can go to imports and exports and go to our CSV exports, and they're right here. And you can just download this entire lead list all you want. Next is Ocean.io. So it is kind of an Apollo lookalike, as you can see, but it has just as good data and even better lookalike data. So if you want to find data on, let's say you have three great customers and you want to find customers that look similar to those customers in industry, in general, let's say business practices, size, location, you can use their lookalike filter and throw in any company name. So we can throw in Clay, and it will pop out a bunch of lookalikes for Clay with 11 to 200 employees, right? So it's an incredible lead source for lookalikes. And if you don't even want to do lookalikes, you can just go back to the normal search function instead. And there's a ton of filters, very similar to what Apollo looks like. The third one that I would recommend checking out is LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And I saved the best for last because truly this is the best source of B2B data, in my opinion, to actually source leads. All you have to do in Sales Navigator is throw in, again, just the same filters that you would see for the other ones. So like geography, industry, you can even filter by first name if you wanted. So I guess we could just throw in Patrick and just get all the Patricks on Sales Navigator and save them. The one asterisk here is it's way more difficult to export LinkedIn Sales Navigator leads. They don't want you to download these to CSVs, unlike the other two, which are completely fine with you exporting them. So you have to use a tool like Clay to copy your Sales Navigator search link, go to find people from Sales Navigator URL, throw it in there, say I want 2,500 people, and then create a Clay table of people from Sales Navigator using this mechanism. All right, moving on to more, let's say, niche data sources. The next source that we're going to go into is Store Leads, which is specifically a great source for ecom. You're able to find pretty much any ecom store available online as long as it has a significant enough web traffic and revenue. And you can even narrow it down by a lot of niche filters. So the way to use Store Leads best, in my opinion, is to go to Clay. You're going to then go to Create New and Table and just go down to Find Companies with Store Leads. From there, you click Continue, and you can throw in whatever query you want. So ideally, it's something that's either very specific as a product or maybe even a company itself. In my opinion, it's best to go with the product. So if I type in something like soap, and then I typed in Shopify as my e-commerce platform, you can put in some technologies that the company uses if you wanted to filter by that. You can filter by their category. You can filter by their features. So all of these specific features that are tailored to an e-com store. Their country, number of results, you get the point. I'm going to throw in United States and I'll put in 100 results. And once you click continue, you can actually add all of these sources to a Clay table automatically with a ton of different data. And Store Leads really has a ton of data. I highly recommend using it, even just for all of the different information you can find on all of these companies. So the apps they use, the place that the store is located, the rank that they are on Shopify, the plan they're on. I mean, the list goes on. It's an incredible, incredible source for ecom leads. All right, so let's go into local leads now. So let's say you can't find your leads on LinkedIn. Maybe the people who run the companies that you're reaching out to don't have LinkedIn accounts or aren't super active on the platform. Well, a great way to find all of these leads and eventually find their emails is using Clay's Google Maps integration. If you think about reaching out to maybe HVAC companies or vintage stores or local law firms, a lot of them are on Google Maps. So you can actually import this Google Maps information and eventually get to the point using Clay to find their emails and reach out to them. So in order to source them, I would go to Create New, Table, and then find companies from Google Maps. I would definitely recommend turning on the preferred API. Although it does cost you credits in Clay, it is significantly better. And from there, you can define your radius. So let's say we throw in something like this. We will expand our radius to be a little larger, and we'll type in HVAC. And we can go ahead and scroll down. We can either do free text or not. So for free text, we will do HVAC, 100, continue, new table, and throw it into a Clay table. And you'll see in just a second, all of the local leads that fit the criteria that I fed into Clay will load into the table. So if you click on the actual business found section, you'll see all this information pops up about it. You can have their phone number, you can have their name, their exact address, their general type, even the place link in Google Maps, an incredible resource for local leads. The last source that I want to talk about is Clay. And the reason I made this one separate is because Clay isn't necessarily a source of leads, but an aggregator of lead sources into one platform. So you've seen me use it already for Google Maps and for store leads, but they actually have their own import people and companies integrations. What it's really doing is actually just importing LinkedIn data about people or companies into a Clay table. So if you go to Create New and Table, you'll see these find companies and find people generic imports. And if you go to them, you can actually import pretty much as many companies as you want based on certain criteria from LinkedIn. So for example, we could throw in accounting. We can say that we want them to be 500 to 10,000 employees, and we want them to be in New York. And from there, we can run our preview after eliminating our limits. And you'll see here that after this preview generates, it will have any of the companies that fit that exact criteria. So as you can see, based in New York, there are not a ton of accounting firms with all the criteria, but I did ask for 500 employees, so there's not going to be a ton. However, if you remove this, and maybe we'll even take away New York and preview it, you'll see that it can find a lot of leads if you want to widen your criteria. So in this case, we have more than 50,000 results for just accounting firms in the US. So it's scraping LinkedIn for this information, and I highly recommend using it. The second Clay import that I would highly recommend using, other than the find companies and people integrations, are the Clay Chrome extension. So you might not know, but Clay actually has a Chrome extension that allows you to scrape any website for data as long as the website doesn't have a native scrape blocker installed on it. So a great example is this website. Let's say my data isn't niche enough and I wanted to find a specific list online, scrape it, and import it into a Clay table for further enrichment. Well, you can actually use the Chrome extension to do this. So I have this builtin.com 100 best places to work in Seattle, Washington, and I wanted to scrape this list and put it into a table without a bunch of manual work. Well, if I go to the Chrome extension, which you can install on the Chrome extension store, and I click on it, you'll see that it loads an untitled recipe, but we're going to go and just select a recipe of our own. So we're going to create a recipe here. We're going to click select data to add from page and then select a list. From there, we are going to select 2 attributes in that list so it can identify what the list looks like. So we're going to click on the title here, which we just did, and the title here, and you'll see that it'll go back to this section of the Chrome extension. From there, we can click select list item to add. So let's say we want to click on the company name. You'll see it detects the company name once we click in it. We can type in name and add attribute. And now we have 100 rows of the company name from the list. Let's add another attribute. Maybe we want to add this picture of the company's logo. You see, it doesn't find it, but if we go to image as the data type, voila, here we go, logo, save. Next attribute. Let's say we wanted to click on the link associated with the company's page on this website. We'll go down to link as our data type, make link, add attribute, voila, we've got it once again. And once we save our changes here, we can find this list and add it to our Clay workspace. And you'll see that we have all that information importing into a Clay table. So incredibly, incredibly helpful. Maybe all the logos didn't load in this case, but do you really need logos for this stuff anyway? Probably not. And at the end of the day, it's a very effective way of scraping leads using Clay. So Clay would be the last source I'd highly recommend checking out. And now that you have a general idea of how to build lead lists, we can go on to the next step.